Good times. Good times. So I wanted to talk about death rites tonight because, sometimes it just seems really appropriate. And, yeah, it, yeah, yeah, tonight's a good night for that. Let's see. Let's see here. So, hi. Hi, YouTube world. Do I have everything? I think I have everything. My hair is getting in the way, and oof, there we go. So, yeah. Good morning. Yay, Julia! Got your altar all set up. So, I guess this is my check-in. Did you guys, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? So, death rites. Yeah. I don't know what's going on there. I'm not looking. There may not be a call board tonight because apparently I am having just some minor technical adventures this evening because, yeah. It really isn't a Friday night if I don't have some sort of issue, right? Isn't that the way it is? Friday Night Madness, Mercury's in retrograde, all of the adventures seem to be happening all at the same time. So, yeah. If you, hey Gemini, if you want to, let's see, since I don't know that you can actually hear me, yeah, let's see, what am I trying to say? However you're hearing me, just stop in and say hello in the chat rooms, or you can send me an email at wildpaisley@gmail.com. That's WILDEPAISLEY at gmail.com. Hey, you want to support the show to get me some better internet? That'd be great. No, I'm kidding. You don't have to, but you could do that. Etsy.com/shop/Monarch Mountain Studio, or you can go to patreon.com/TheSpacesBetween, or I do have a cash tag, and that is $TheSpacesBetween. So, yeah. And I see y'all have been chatting away in my absence. So, yeah. 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 It's good. It's good. It's great. What am I trying to do? I want to open this. So, death rates. Because yes. October, here in the Northern Hemisphere, is the adventures. We're getting closer to Samhain. SAMHAIN. So Samhain, it looks like Samhain, but it's pronounced Samhain, and I'm going to have to do something else because it seems like every time I shuffle around, my microphone starts to make noise, and y'all don't want me to have fuzzy audio. So yeah, Eclectic Clarity in the chat room, I noticed that I have a skull image for part of my effects tonight, and Halloween for some is very, very scary, and for others it's, more fun adventures. And Samhain is very, very much, it's a celebration and a way of honoring those that have passed. And, once upon a time, the different societies around the world, the different cultures had different ways to celebrate and mourn death, because it's definitely a combination of celebration of life and the mourning the loss of a loved one. And mourning the loss is always acceptable. Anybody ever says that you should not mourn the loss of someone, well, they should get bent. Honestly, because there's nothing wrong with mourning that loss. And sometimes it's a loved one because they've passed on, or sometimes it's someone, a relationship that just isn't working out anymore, and it's just time to let it go. And yeah, it's okay to mourn those losses. Very, very much okay to mourn the loss. And so today, when it comes to the passing of a loved one, there, especially here in the U.S., there's some pretty specific ways that we can legally, honor and the death, and and to witness the passage of those into the afterlife. And for me, it really is a passage. Seriously, it's a door. It's a thing. And I've witnessed death. I've lost loved ones, and hold please while I drink some tea. And it's sometimes it's really hard to remember that it's an honoring and witnessing that passage into the afterlife and celebrating that life. And sometimes, yeah, the death is a blessing because the person who's passed is just in incredible pain or misery or just significant illness, and that's frustrating. And sometimes it means that the person who passed, it's a sudden loss. Sometimes it's younger or a younger person, and it's not just the loss of the person, but the loss of the potential, and the potential, what they could have done. And I suppose that's, for me, that loss of potential is one of my biggest issues for, little soapbox moment, for abortion. Because there's so much irresponsible loss of life through abortion. But on that flip side, I think we need to make sure we're taking care of the children also. So it's a complicated thing. I'm not going into the politics, but I'm a pro-life person. I just am. So there. And so Julia Blacktree asked, do I believe in Grim Reapers? Yes. Yes, I do. But not necessarily Grim Reapers, but Reapers, I think would be a more appropriate title. Those who reap the dead and help them pass from this life to the next, because often I think the journey is not as clear, or the path is not as clear as one would think. Everybody says, oh, don't go towards the light. It's a tunnel. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, all that. Sure. But that doesn't mean it's easy. And so I think, it's Reapers are there to help the transition. They're guides more than, someone who's taking life. So in times past, people were often buried in burrows or hills, mounds, caves. There's air burials, and that's where the deceased is placed either on top of a platform or a cliff for nature to scavenge from the body, and then the bones are collected and then buried in like an ossuary or something like that. Sometimes like the Viking type funerals, it was the person was placed on a boat or a barge. Not all people, but often those that were upper class or leaders were placed on some floating device and propelled out into water, and then the barge was set aflame. There's other cultures that did some similar things. I mean, Egyptians, they did the whole embalming process. And there's quite a few different ways that those who passed, the physical remains were handled. in today's society, at least here in the U.S., we're a little more limited to that. The cemeteries, yes. Crypts, mausoleums, cremation, so and then placement of urns and such. And that's because as times have changed and our cultures have changed, the accepted way to handle the remains has also, altered and adjusted. Now, in our society today, we generally have two services to honor the dead. One is often an indoor location, and the second is often graveside or in a cemetery of some sort. The one indoors is often for the larger community. Extended family, friends, the general public, those that may have a distant association with the person, maybe coworkers, that kind of thing. And then, and so basically the public can mourn the passing. And then the graveside service is often reserved for closer family members, the inner circle, close friends, that kind of thing. Now, today, as pagans, we should still embrace, I think, the tradition of the dual service when we can. And historically, both pagans and non-pagans have held a similar dual service to honor the dead. In paganism or pagan rituals, they generally, there's, trying to keep track of my notes here. Sorry, folks, I had just the most awesome migraine. It was great. And so I'm now dealing with the migraine hangover just a bit, drinking my mint tea. It's good stuff. So, yeah, Lucky, Truth Frequency News, says, I think what is done today is the most horrible way to handle the remains. The earth is not getting the body back in any beneficial way. Yeah, there's something to be said there. There's, the embalming process today has a lot of toxins in it, and often the body is placed in a chamber that is not biodegradable, and the remains are, I don't know, they're handled very professionally, but you're not really allowed, dust to dust, if you will. And I think, I don't know. It's it's weird. I don't like it. I've already told my family I'm opting for cremation myself. So, yeah. Let's see. So today, our most pagan rituals start with a spiritual support during the dying process, because it is a process often. Again, this is for those that we know something is approaching. The end of life is often obvious. I had a friend of mine passed. It's been a couple years back now, and the last time I saw her, I could tell. I didn't realize what I was seeing and feeling at the time, but looking back, her aura was damaged a little bit. Her spirit was tired, and she was ready. She hadn't accomplished everything in this life that she wanted to, but her soul was ready to pass from this life to the next. The burdens that she was carrying were pretty heavy, and so in a way the death was really sudden, but looking back, maybe not so much. And so that as part of the process, if if I'd been more aware, if I'd been further into my path or understanding, I don't know, maybe I would have handled it differently, I guess. So the, I wish, the things I wish I could have done, the spiritual support during the process. And because, there's a certain ritual to it. Often, like right now in our world today, sort of, the person who's to pass is caressed, is sung to, allowed to discuss their fears and their feelings about passing from this life, and it's often just a very smooth transition, a little easier, and it's probably a lot closer to the way that our ancestors handled death. And today, it's very different from what most of our society does. Elaine, I am so sorry, and I understand. And I am sorry. You're in for a tough time, and I'm sorry, dear. Because, the sudden passing of a loved one is never easy. In part because the goodbyes are harder. They just are. And on that sorry note, we are off to break, the first break, and I hope we'll see how things transition into break, because, I have North Idaho internet, and it's a good old time.
I, O Lord, within the sun, as we will, so mote it be the spell forever.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Paisley Wild, and we are adventuring into the spaces between. And tonight we are talking about death and death rites, specifically contemporary death rites, and a little bit of historical information. And just kind of seeing where it goes. I have a lot of information. We'll see what the time allows and how things go, because, yeah, we'll see. So modern paganism is often considered neo-paganism, and it all depends on who you talk to and what traditions are being spoken of. So neo-paganism is kind of the umbrella term, if you will, for a wide variety of contemporary spiritual beliefs. And yep, I'm making noise with my hair again, sorry guys. And those modern spiritual beliefs often include like Wiccans, Druids, shamans, etc. Often many are eclectic in their beliefs, drawing from traditions from all over the world, and some are very specific to different to their own traditions or those that they have studied under, and it varies a little bit. One thing that many modern pagans have in common, though, is a really deep respect for all living things. They may worship different gods, and often will hear us refer to the goddess or god, because we have a female deity of some sort that we're working with. And, you know, it's a little bit of a variety there, a little bit of difference. You know, but even though we're all different and have slightly different paths, often we all do have some similar beliefs in what happens after death. And many of us do believe in reincarnation or a union with the spirit, or of the spirit with nature, or depending where we're at on our journey, our soul journey, we may be ready to go ahead and enter into the final afterlife. And deep breath. And so, you know, some of that is unique to each tradition, some of that is unique to each person. So again, I suppose it's one of the most frustrating things about paganism today is there's as many varieties as there are sands on the beach, it seems like. So I'm speaking in general terms tonight. I'm not being just really specific. Well, that is ironic, Nase. Nase says he was talking to his family about death and what to do with his body at that point. And it's a hard conversation, just on that point real quick. But it's a good one to have, regardless of your age and your family members and all of that. It is good to have some sort of plan that your family can enact, because sometimes we just don't know what someone wants, and so we're forced to deal with budget or bow to whims of other family members. And yeah, so anyway, yeah, good conversation to have, and you should have it, even though it's a hard one. So when it comes to just funeral etiquette for a lot of the pagan rituals, often, you know, we understand that those who might be attending the ceremonies may not know the beliefs that we hold in life, or may not understand what the process is. And so often it's common for the priest or priestess or the officiant of the ceremony to take time to explain to those that have gathered what is happening and what is expected during the funeral. And that's really kind of a big benefit, I think, for those who are attending who may not be pagan, or those who may not be familiar with your specific beliefs and desires. So that means as long as you're following the instructions and are being respectful in the observation of the rituals, you're unlikely to be offensive. And it's really easy to just treat the pagan funeral ritual with the same respect that you would any other religious service. And on that note, if you are attending a different religious service, and that means, so say as a pagan, I were to attend a Baptist service, not my belief, but it hurts me not at all to be respectful. Respectful of their practice. I don't have to believe in it, and hopefully they don't try to cram their beliefs down my throat, but just being respectful and honoring those that have passed and being supportive for the loved ones that are there. That's more important than getting on your soapbox and pushing your own agenda. Really, truly. I just don't believe that funerals of any kind are the place for a soapbox. And yes, I'm speaking to certain religious organizations originating in the Midwest that like to protest funerals. Let's see. So, pagan funeral services may be slightly more relaxed than others. You may not be required to wear a suit and tie or, really expensive clothes, especially if the ceremony is outside. If you have any concerns about what the dress code should be for the service, ask. Or if you're making the plan, maybe include that in a little blurb like, hey, formal wear is not required. We're going outside, so maybe, stiletto heels are not the best thing to be wearing in the grass, kind of a thing. Just some of it is basic, but some of it is just, being polite and sharing the information. A lot of, a lot of pagan and Wiccan funerals do take place outside to acknowledge the importance of nature in the pagan belief system. And pagan, remember, is kind of the umbrella term for anybody who does not follow an Abrahamic faith. So it doesn't matter if you are Wiccan or heathen, you're considered a pagan by modern Abrahamic faiths. So, the service may be in a crematorium or other similar venue, maybe in a home. So it will just take a little bit of a variation, because pagan does encompass many other beliefs, and many different beliefs, I should say. And so, yeah, it is really hard to define a set specific structure of traditions at a pagan funeral. And often the service is very reflective of the person who has passed on. Viewing, when it comes to viewing the person who has passed, can vary with the individual, and whether to have a funeral wake or not can vary as well. Because sometimes that celebration of life outside of the funeral is good too, because we do need to remember to celebrate the life of the person who has passed. Generally speaking, both burial and cremation are accepted by those with pagan beliefs. Although pagans are often going to choose a more natural burial in accordance to their respect for nature. So you can opt for a I just lost the word. A non-chemical burial. Basically, you're not embalmed. You're just put in the ground inside your casket. And that's very, very popular, because you know what? It's a good place to not have those chemicals in your system, because that allows your body to decompose naturally and return to the earth. Or cremation is also very popular. A friend of mine who has been dealing with some health issues for quite a while, she researched if she could have a Nordic style ceremony where her body was placed on a barge and set afloat and then set on fire. And apparently, yes, it is possible, but there's a lot of license or permissions and expenses involved. So instead, she's decided she wants to be cremated when she passes, and part of her remains to become part of a tree, and the other part of her ashes to be placed on a little bitty boat, put out into the water, and that's set aflame, because apparently you can burn ashes, but you can't burn bodies. Anyway, I don't understand, but it's okay. Whatever works. So in some ways, a pagan funeral is going to be very, very similar to today's, say, Christian funerals, including eulogies, poetry readings, and then also prayers not just to the god, but also the goddess. And there's also probably going to be funeral music of some sort. I saw one of my social media feeds, someone was asking, like, what kind of music do we sing? Because I've been asked to sing a song at a funeral ceremony for someone that she knows, and she's like, "What should I do?" So there's some variety there. You can go historical, or you can do some contemporary songs that are very, very appropriate. Let's see. A pagan funeral ceremony may include other funeral music, including singing bowls, recording music, other live music using other instruments, flutes, drums, that kind of thing. It can vary with the different traditions. And often a pagan service will involve invoking the elements, the 4 elements. And these are often a key aspect of the pagan belief. Air in the east, fire in the south, water in the west, earth in the north, generally speaking. And they may have someone, stand at each compass point to invoke those elements and then give thanks and do a real a circle, and cast the circle and then let it go. And there may be times during the service when the congregation is asked to join in by speaking a prayer or repeat after me kind of things. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it, then don't. That's real simple. Just be respectful. Let's see. So, let's see. Trying to just keep what I'm going here. For decorations, when it comes to okay, I'm going to stop there for decorations. Eclectic Clarity is channeling an inner titan here and asks a question. Other than putting ashes in a vase, what do you do? So you can distribute the ashes, yes. You can have them combined with dirt and have a sapling, or seed planted for a sapling to grow in it, and then the tree is then planted somewhere. You can either have it in like a park or on your own property. There's organizations that'll take those same ashes and compile them with some other materials, and they become part of the coral reef reclamation projects. And then let's see what else. Yeah, there are different glass makers that can take those same ashes and include them in casting a glass pendants or some other glass sculpture, blown glass sculpture of some sort. And then so it's just a couple different things. You don't have to keep the ashes, I suppose. You could do other things. When our dog passed earlier this year, we have the ashes in a wooden box. And other than that, I don't know what I would do with those. So, yeah. And yeah, you can discreetly release ashes. I know some people will take ashes to like the birthplace of the one who passed and to distribute them, or their favorite location or something like that. So yeah, some sort of little, you know, pendant that you could wear. So yeah, a couple different things. Yep. Clarity, it was a different dog. We had a American Staffordshire Terrier. His name was Diego. He's a big, goofy guy, and yeah, he passed just before the lockdown here in the U.S. So yeah, it was my daughter's buddy. So, but he was 16. So yeah, just he was a happy guy, and it was time, I think. All right, so thank you, though. Thank you. For a lot of the services that pagans have these days, we often feel it's appropriate to decorate a hall or chapel with potted plants, small live trees, that kind of thing, rather than having cut flowers or wreaths that may die. So living plants, and then this way the live plants and trees can become a sort of a memorial to the dead, and those that live on to represent the cycle of life that still goes on. And so I have a peace lily, actually, that my mother bought for my grandmother when my grandmother passed, and it's been 4 years now. And I've split him once in a big way. So I've got two big peace lilies now. And then we've taken cuttings also, and so we've got probably about 4 other starts going right now. So, it's kind of cool that we still have this plant and it's growing, and it just bloomed again. So yeah, that's awesome. It's also appropriate when it comes to the ceremony to incorporate the person's astrological sign into the decorations by utilizing associated colors or elements. For example, for a water sign, you might want to display a bowl of water with floating candles in it corresponding to that sign, and then light the candles as part of the funeral ritual. And often having those different representations of the 4 elements is appropriate too, like water, a bowl of water with the flower petals. For earth, it could maybe seeds, potted plants, a potted tree. Fire, maybe yellow candles. Stones like garnets, maybe a bowl of sand with cinnamon sticks in it. Air could be a quill feather or pen. And just different things that may come to mind. So yes, if you're developing a funeral plan, if there's something that you want specifically and to be there, you should probably include it in your plan. Let's see. Often we will place pictures of the deceased and objects that he or she cherished in life, where they can be seen by those gathering for the funeral. And you can also include, offerings to the dead as well, including seeds that represent rebirth or other objects, and be safely buried in the grave or given to the family. Just small things. With preparation of the body, there's 2 different ways right now. Either burial or cremation. In the case of burial, if you're going with more traditional route, the body should be washed with water, if possible, and then thanked for housing the soul that no longer requests the need of the body. If the body is not going to be embalmed, you need to do it with a little bit of haste. Otherwise, because the body does begin to decay rather quickly. And also, if the body was damaged in an injury that was the cause of the death, you may want to not do that as well. And handling damaged or decomposing body may be traumatic for family or clergy not used to this type of practice. because it's not easy to see death or experience death, and it isn't. And if it's not your thing, it's okay. Okay, it's okay. In the case of cremation, where washing the body is not possible or is not desired, maybe washing the representation of the body, such as a stone or a puppet, and sometimes family members will want to be a part of that. Often, if this is someone that is someone close, close family member, it'll be the inner circle of family and friends. It won't be the extended family. The casket use is, again, depending on the person who's passed and the wishes of the family. Is it an open casket, closed casket? Often when it comes time for cremation, a casket is not used. That's again when the pictures of the decedent are very popular, or it's good to have. And just remember, people need different ways to express their grief and to find the closure of the person, of the relationship to the person that has passed on. Some people do need to see the body or touch it to really make sure that in their own mind that the spirit of the person has left the body. And others just want to remember the person as is without seeing it in an altered state. Now, personally, I feel it's not best to embalm the body unless it's done in accordance with the decedent's tradition, because embalming is rather unnatural, because it replaces the bodily fluids with chemicals and such that are really not good for the environment at all. And so if you're working with a funeral home or something like that, make sure you check in with them to make sure that you know what their process is. So if there's a different process that you want to implement, that you're looking into it before you get in there, it becomes an issue. If you do have a casket, you may want to get one that has holes in it. Often these are used for the more traditional Jewish burials, for instance, because they allow the body to decay naturally and then return to the earth from which it came. Or an eco-friendly casket, which does decay over time. So yeah, it just it a lot of variance to tradition and such, and just again, it's good to have a burial plan or an end of life plan, and it is a hard conversation. And cremation, just like many other pagan societies, both historical and contemporary, from ancient Greeks and Romans to today, we use cremation, and often cremation is a way of viewing a separation of the body from the spirit, with the body being returned to dust and then the spirit being able to move on. So many contemporary pagan practices see family pets, beloved, close air animals, as being part of the family. So, and often we see animals as being rather sentient, and share the earth with us. So we often have services for those animals as well. I'm seeing some of that in chat, and yep, had a little bit of memorial for Diego when he passed. And so, often you can take, inspiration from human ceremonies and apply them to our pet ceremonies. And, it's okay to do that, because you're still mourning the passing of someone who's very dear. And yeah, it's it's a big deal. So, let's see, just checking the chats. Is there a question in there? I think there was a question. Unsanitary clarity says something about maybe ash spreading is unsanitary. I don't know. Often, if you're here in the U.S., your local, your county government should be able to help you with that. Should be able to. If not, they should know who to ask. And worst case scenario, call the funeral home and ask, hey, I want to spread these ashes, what do I do? Because they're local experts. Anyways, we're off the break, and we'll see you in a second. This is Paisley Wild, and we're off adventuring into the spaces between. No bumper music, so full time. And then I see conversation, yeah. All right, hold on. Doodle-oot. Hold, please. Speaking of singing bowl, I had one played over my head today. It was quite interesting. I had it placed inverted over my head and then rung like a bell, which was kind of wild. But I felt the vibrations all the way down to my toes. That was pretty awesome, actually. And it helped with the headache a bit. It did. Justin Goodearth in chat says he's got a will that states that he wants to be planted on the property with a tree planted over him and get a will written. And you know, a will is a really big deal. Not necessarily to divvy up your worldly possessions, but also it's part of that that whole process of creating a plan for passing, of end of life plan. Not just a will, but also a living will. And yes, it's important. Yes, Marie Bon. She says she's a slightly different cultural perspective. She's from Italy, where you honor your dead. Yeah. You know, that's something else I've noticed just in research and just in, being aware of the world around me, I guess, and looking into things. The way other cultures handle death is so different from the U.S. It's like here people are afraid to die, and so they fight death, and they demonize death, and it's really unfortunate because in doing so we've lost a lot of the respect and honoring that we should have when it comes to those who pass on. And eclectic clarity, yeah, it wasn't really that loud. It was more, I felt it. So, yeah, it was just an interesting time. It was a big bowl. It was like yay big, and I just wore it like a hat and had my bell rung. It was good. So yeah. Let's see here. So, continuing on here, a lot of pagans do believe that there is some sort of afterlife, and I'm one of those people. There's an afterlife. I think we're, reincarnated. Scott Cunningham has some good books that you could read. What was it? The Summerland, and then also Wicca, A Guide for the Solitary Practitioner, both good books. But he states this realm is neither heaven nor the underworld. It simply is a non-physical reality, much less dense than ours. And yeah, I think it is. The afterlife is very much a dimension separate from ourselves or from this one, but at the same time connected. And the different perceptions or types of afterlife for each of the traditions are contained in the same space, but like different sections, if you will. Some feel it's like land of eternal summers, some as a realm without forms, or where maybe energy swirls just kind of coexist with other energy swirls. Some see it as Valhalla, or Tir Nanag, or Hades. It varies. So, whatever your tradition is, read up about it, do your research, journal it. Because there are different places where we might go that are in the afterlife. It may be a holding place before we're reincarnated. Yes, past life regression is a really big deal. Chris Jarvis mentioned it, and it's interesting because often the past life regression gives us a chance to understand why we are today, because some of the choices that we've made in the past. So as we approach Samhain, as we're and the veil is thinning here, and regardless of who you follow, often we all have some similar perceptions of the thinning veil, and it's the harvest season is coming to an end. The land is reaching that death cycle, and as we're looking to see what kind of chants or poems or information we might want to read or understand. You might want to look into Anubis, who is the Egyptian god of death, or Odin, for the Asatru or heathen belief system, or Hel or Freya, Hel. Let's see. I'm just kind of skimming through here. A lot more information that I really needed. Let's see. Hecate, Hades, Mengpo. There's a few different ones out there that you might want to look into. And if you want the information, I'm trying to, limited internet, and so I can only do so much. Let's see, what is this? I had a whole link here. Let's see if I can find it and put it in the show notes. Justin, your garden is a little different. Let's see. Just checking. Sorry, talking to myself. Let's see. I know that I'm just kind of skimming through here. And I said that once already. I'm sorry. People are wondering what to do for ashes. I'm sorry, I'm coming back to it. So, in the Victorian era, it was very popular to wear jewelry in the deceased's honor. So maybe a brooch holding their ashes, bracelets woven from hair. It can be kind of morbid, yes, but bereavement jewelry is making a comeback. So are death photos, actually. When photographs were first becoming more popular, often the only images or only pictures we have of anyone at that time were those that had passed, in part because you had to sit really, really still in order for the photographs to be taken. So if you have older pictures or Google them online or whatever, you'll see a lot of those photographs are actually of dead people, which is a little creepy. But yeah. There are quite a few jewelers today that do make death jewelry. You'll have to look it up. But ashes are poured into a pendant generally and then sealed with a screw of some sort in the back so that the ashes don't fall out. That way you can carry that memorial or remembrance of them with you wherever you go. And, it may be, if you do scatter the ashes, you may want to keep, just a little bit for that purpose. Let's see. So the Summerland, I mentioned that earlier briefly, is kind of the pagan equivalent to the Christian heaven. And so Wiccans often believe that the soul will travel to the wicked Summerland after death to await reincarnation. And then once the soul learns or experiences all that it needs to experience, the cycle ends and the soul stays in Summerland for eternity. So the how and why of it varies a little bit with each tradition. Yes, Dybbuk boxes are bad. Do not open them. And then the Summerland belief probably did have some, or does have some, influences from the Celtic otherworld and some of the realms of the Norse pagan afterlife. The Nordic afterlife is more complex, I think, than people know. It's not just Valhalla. There are other layers. For the ancient Celtics, death was just part of life, and I feel this way myself. It's really, really hard to have life without death, or death without life. Yes, there is some crossover. I mean, but you really, really do need both. In Welsh mythology, the Celtic otherworld was called Annwn. There's one vowel in that. And it was a place of abundance, health, and eternal use. And the Celtic god Aran ruled the Celtic otherworld, as told by Welsh prose. The Irish Celts also believed in the Celtic otherworld, somewhere located under the earth or over the sea. Some of the names are Tirnanog, Ternaltecdwin, or Megmel. And so those are different names for Celtic otherworld places. And there were different places within the realm, if you will. Let's see. Gauls used to believe in an afterlife similar to both the Irish and the Welsh. They called it Orbis Alias, at least that was the Latin name for it. It was 3 major planes of existence, an upper, middle, and lower. So it's a worldwide concept of the world tree, if you will. So they're combined, in which the upper world is the realm of the gods, the middle is the world of men, and the lower world is the realm of the dead, similar to Yggdrasil. The Nordic afterlife, the world tree concept was really, and is still, a very integral part of the Norse paganism, or Yggdrasil. The tree consists of 9 realms: Niflheim, Muspelheim, Asgard, Midgard, Jotunheim, Vanaheim, Alfheim, Svartalfheim, and Helheim. And within the realms were places for gods, giants, elves, humans, and the dead. Valhalla is very, very popular today. And it was a place with Odin and in Asgard specifically for fallen warriors to go in preparation for Ragnarok. Hel, Hel, was a realm of the dead, under the earth or in the earth, and they're ruled over by the goddess Hel. And the goddess Freya presides over a field of dead called the Folkvanger. It was up to the gods and your deeds that then determined which path you were going to take or where you went in the Nordic afterlife. If you want to learn more, read the Eddas. The one specifically by Snorri Sturluson is probably the best one to go. And then, reincarnation in general is just the belief of the soul cycles in and out of physical bodies. So, and when you die in this life, your life will return to Earth in another body. And it's a very ancient belief, very worldwide. It's from Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, a lot of the Eastern religions. Celts believed in reincarnation, so did the Nordic. Some pagans believe that this cycle never ends, and it just keeps going and going and going. And others feel that the cycle ends when the soul has experienced or learned everything that there is to learn or know. And some feel that people may reincarnate into animals or other forms. And it varies quite a bit by individual and by, different traditions. Let's see. Ah, good. Some of my links do work. I'm so glad. My backup here is, yeah, kind of an adventure. So, let's see here. So, with Samhain rapidly approaching, you know, a lot of cultures are preparing to celebrate All Hallows Eve, Los Dias de los Muertos, the Festival of the Dead, the Bon, Gajatra, or All Souls. There's different names for pretty much the same ceremony, the same time of year, and they all have a similar theme of death of some sort. And a lot of the rites associated with Samhain are not as enthusiastic and colorful as those during the summer, for instance. And this is a specific time of the year, and the wheel of the year, to acknowledge death and loss, and to experience the grief. And because often in our day-to-day lives, especially, those who were the more hunter-gatherer, the ancient pagans, during harvest and trying to get food put away for winter, there wasn't a lot of time to stop and sit down and ritualize the memorial of those that have passed. It's you kind of bury them quick and move on because you gotta, get the canning done or the wheat harvested or whatever. And so this time when the veil is thin, both, at Samhain and Maven, or Beltane, brain cramp, spring, fall and spring, when the veil is thinnest, it's a good time to stop and sit down and celebrate the life of those that have passed and remember them. Because death really isn't a thing to fear. Because it is a very, very huge part of life. It just is. It's considered the ultimate rite of passage. Is the final act that we complete as human beings in this life. Old age is very valued for its wisdom, and dying is very accepted as natural. It's a form of transformation. And often death is very much an equalizer. Generally speaking, once you're dead, you're dead. It doesn't really matter what your ethnic background is or your financial statements look like or anything like that. Once you, that's it. Everybody gets either cremated or buried. It's not, it's an equalizer. So, generally speaking, it's just a good time to remember the dead. And so the Samhain is not just a time for reflecting on our mortality, but also the passing of other relationships, jobs, maybe other significant life transitions. Because, it's, over the course of a year, so many things happen, so many things change, opportunities lost, careers changed, the passing from childhood to adulthood by our children, or passing from being, parents to grandparents, that transition. And we need to remember to allow ourselves time and space to mourn those changes. Like, for instance, we all get a little bit older. I know I'm not as spry as I was 20 years ago, and sometimes I mourn the loss of being able to move and be as physically active as I used to be. A lot of pagans, as they gather to honor are those that have passed will have a dumb supper. And it's D-U-M-B, dumb supper. And it's called that because it's served and consumed in complete silence. Each bite is taken in the name of our loved ones. We put a chair, empty chair at the head of the table, and bring offerings of food for those ancestors who might wish to join us. Perhaps sing and dance after the dinner, and call a litany of names of those that have deceased, or share stories or with one another, drawing comfort from the telling. And it's also a lot of pagans do consider Samhain to be the New Year, because it was used to mark the Celtic New Year. And so it's a lot of annual celebrations are happening right now as well. Yeah, we generally do just accept that death is a part of life, and to honor it. It's time to just pass on and allow those that have passed, to just feel comfort in it, and feel comfort in that transition, and knowing that it's going to happen to all of us. It shouldn't be a scary thing to embrace death or to acknowledge death. Perhaps the scarier part is acknowledging that those that have lost that aren't going to be there for us. Because yeah, it is hard. I know even now, my grandmother passed a couple years back. I mentioned that already. And there's been times it's like, I wish I could just give her a quick call and say, hey, Grandma, this happened in my life, and just share with her. And instead of doing it over the phone or something, I'm instead doing it, just out there, because I want to share that information with her, and I think she's listening. But yeah, it's, I don't know, I think, like I said, here in the U.S., our relationship with death is unhealthy. I think it's partly because it's been commercialized to fight the aging process, and death has been linked to the aging process, and which is really what's happening. And because of that fear or the darkening opinion on death, I think it really has done us a disservice. I mean, there's a lot of people right now who, either because of the cycle of life and the wheel turning, are letting go a bit. Naysay says, if he's able to find the afterlife, he'll let me know. Giggling ghost. Yeah, I'm sure you will. Every so often I do get a ghost through here. The energy changes a bit. Just a little bit. Sometimes a lot. And I've experienced some of those negative ghosties and spiritual entities, and that's not an adventure I would like to do ever again. But yeah, a happy haunt. I would love a happy haunt. If I had a ghost that wanted to come and keep my house clean, I could sign up for that one too, actually. Because when the gods were handing out gifts, I was not given the gift of being a good housekeeper. I clutter like nobody's business. I really do. I purge afterwards, but yeah, I clutter first. And yeah, it's frustrating. Because then I never know where anything really is. And that's not good for me either. Like I just found a coffee cup. This is my coffee cup. It's not where it belongs. So, anyways, I have an article. It's got 10 death rites and funeral rituals from funeralguide.net. I'll include the link in the show notes. And I don't want to start in on that until after the break because it's got some good information in it. But yeah, I think honoring our dead, whether it's throughout the year or on Samhain specifically, I think it's good for us because it keeps that relationship fresh for us.
I,
We'll be right back,
O
and see you in a few.
Lord within the sun, as we will, so mote it be, the spell forever done. Sisters of the shining moon, heaven, earth, and sea, I call upon you in this hour, bring magic unto me. Brothers, oh, the cauldron cries, it singeth unto me, the songs of Mother Goddess and the Father in the tree.
This is Paisley Wild, and we are off adventuring into the spaces between. Because we can. Yes, yes, we are. So, talking about death and death rites, contemporary specifically, not so much historical. Some of it, though. Because, you know, it's important to understand or have an understanding of death before we encounter it, especially up close and personal, because it can be very, very painful for ourselves and for our loved ones. And if at all possible, having an end of life plan is a good thing. It really, really, really is. So, there's an article from funeralguide.net. It's called Past and Present Continuing Bonds. And I just kind of wanted to, there's like, basically it's like 10 different things that that are ancient, or so 10 ancient and modern death rites and funeral traditions. I just thought it was interesting, figured I'd share. So there. Let's see. So the first one is saints' relics. So throughout the Middle Ages, saints' relics formed the focus for lengthy pilgrimages across Europe. So they're divided into 3 classes, from the least auspicious to the most sacred. Third-class relics were those that had come into contact with a saint, while second-class relic was an object said to have been owned or frequently used by a saint. And a prized first-class relic was the physical remains of a saint, or part of their body. Heads, hands, and feet were very popular. These relics were often said to be able to cure the sick, and are still venerated across the world today. So yeah, basically, someone who might be a saint, they would, after they'd been buried, I guess, and then they're sanctified, they might be exhumed and then reburied in a different location, or the bones put into an ossuary. But sometimes the bones would be split up and sent to various places around the world, which to me is a little weird. It's like, hey, I'm carrying the pinky finger of St. Thomas. That just doesn't sound like it's going to end well for anybody, because that's how possessions happen. I would think. It's one thing if they give permission to be toted around like that. Another thing to just take them. So, yeah. Yeah, that just to me is weird. Plastered skulls. So, in the Neolithic Middle East, which is modern-day Syria, Turkey, and Jordan, there's 90 plastered skulls. They're from about 8,500 to 7,000 BC. So people were buried beneath the house floors, and after their bodies were decomposed, their skull or cranium was retrieved, and then their faces were recreated using plaster with shells inlaid for eyes and other facial details added with pigments. Many of the plaster skulls were eventually reburied, and the archaeologists have noted that they show signs of breakages and repairs, suggesting that they were frequently handled by the living relatives over long periods of time. So, yeah, nothing more creepy than burying dead people in your floors. Yeah, I don't. That's how haunted houses happen, right? Not really my thing. So, Dia de los Muertos. So when Halloween approaches, the shops often fill with pumpkins and witches' hats, that kind of thing. But down in Mexico, Dia de los Muertos is the Day of the Dead. Has very deep historical roots and is a tradition which celebrates the dead rather than relegating them to the stuff of nightmares. Families will hold candlelit vigils at the graveside and place food for the returning dead in their houses. A preoccupation with keeping the dead close to the world of the living and not separate from it. Dia de los Muertos represents just one example of attempts to maintain continuing bonds with the dead, a theme which emerges prominently in many death rites across the world, both past and present, in our own society today. And Dia de los Muertos is actually Dias de los Muertos. The 31st is for mourning or for welcoming children, and the 1st of November is for adults. This one's a little creepy. Ghost bikes. Yeah, ghost bikes, real. It's a roadside memorial to cyclists who have been killed in road traffic accidents. The central motif is a real bicycle, which has been painted white. The first recorded ghost bike appeared in 2003 in St. Louis, Missouri, with a message that states, "A cyclist struck here." Other memorials might include candles, flowers, and photographs. The monuments serve to not only memorialize the dead, but also to mark the exact place of death and as a warning to others, both cyclists and drivers. Often they do form the focus for memorial rides, such as New York's annual 5-borough bike tour, which is held not only in remembrance of those who have died tragically, but also to serve as a platform for discussions around road safety. So, yeah, road safety is a big deal. Here in North Idaho, we've slowly been getting better with our roads, but often the shoulder is quite narrow, and yeah, it's every so often something happens, and you just be aware, both as a cyclist and as a driver. Pay attention. Good situational awareness is just a big deal. Seriously. Egyptian mummification was born out of the belief that in order to enter the afterlife, the dead person would have to repossess their body. To enable this, their body needed to be recognizable. The embalming process was skillful and expensive. It required removing of the internal organs and placing them inside canopic jars. Then linen, spices, perfumed oils, and salt, for the process were very expensive and exotic. And the process kind of varied a little bit with what the family could afford. And it was, quite the process. If you want to find out more, there's information all over the place. Death portraits in the Victorian times was very, very popular. I mentioned that. So the development of photography in the 19th century provided a new way to memorialize the dead, and the emergence of the death portrait. Death portraits were photographs of people who had recently died, and then they are dressed and posed to look as though they were still alive. Quite often they were accompanied by their living family members in the photograph, with small children often perched on their parents' knees. And some of those photos are really creepy. They're really creepy. So there are cremation tattoos nowadays and jewelry. So emerging technologies have increased the diversity of ways we can keep the physical remains with us. So recognizable body parts would be upsetting in pretty much all cultures. But the transformation of cremation ashes into diamonds, or incorporated into tattoo ink, which just doesn't sound very hygienic, but okay, will transform the dead into portable works of art. Yeah, no. Jewelry, yes. Tattoo, no. Let's see. On the island of Sulawesi in Indonesia, the Torajan people conduct extended death rites, which culminate in elaborate and expensive funerals. It can often take years to accrue the necessary money and resources for these ceremonies, during which time the dead are kept within the houses of the living, where they are fed, watered, and tended to. In some Torajan communities, interred relatives are brought out of their tombs on an annual basis in order to refresh their clothing and burial shrouds. So, that's a thing. I don't know that I would necessarily want to do that, but yeah. Oh, no, stop. Thank you. No, stay out of my tea. Stay out of my tea. Thank you. Let's see. Naysay, if you called in, I am sorry, but I'm getting an error and I cannot connect. I will see if I can get it connected tomorrow. Let's see. Madagascan Famadihana is a funerary tradition among the Malagasy people in Madagascar. It's known as as the turning of the bones, and is carried out roughly once every 7 years. And the bodies of the dead are brought out from family crypts, rewrapped in fresh cloth, and held aloft by friends and family who dance with the bones to music. So the ritual also serves to bring extended families together, even those with troubled relations. And past tensions are put aside. And yes, Aussie, I noticed the static myself, and I'm not sure what the deal is there. It is because the cat is sitting on something, because she is. Let's see, and then mourning jewelry. It pretty much has been around since the Middle Ages, at least, and it started with Queen Victoria made it really popular. Often include the name and date of death of an individual, but often there's lock of hair or some ashes, and within the jewelry. And hair often is considered to retain the essence of an individual and is therefore very fitting for inclusion in mourning jewelry. And hair can also be very decorative, and in much more expensive pieces is twisted into elaborate designs and surrounded by fittings set with precious stones. That's not creepy at all. Okay, very, very creepy. And then nowadays there's legacy pages can be found on social media, specifically Facebook. And so basically that's people whose profiles have, are still going even though they've passed on. And so it's become a kind of a way to memorialize those that have passed by, tagging the decedent in pictures, or I miss you, that kind of thing. And it's been an interesting trend to see that happen, and to have people do that. And Naysay, it's not your static, but thank you. And yes, I would love to hear about the way your ancestors handle death rituals, because yes, you have a unique perspective. And yeah, hopefully I'll get it sorted out by tomorrow. I checked the status. Yeah, it's just a thing. So, there's pretty much, like I mentioned at the very beginning of the show, there's as many ways to honor those that have passed as there are people, basically. And when we come across people who may not believe as we do, we need to remember to be respectful of them. And yeah, yes, it is raining, but I don't know why it sounds like a downpour. I'm sorry. Apparently I have just enough internet to keep going, guys. That's part of the problem. And yeah, it's important, I think, to remember that the respect that we give to each culture is very much representative of ourselves and our abilities to to represent our own faith and our own belief. Yes, kitty drama. Kitty drama. Absolutely. She's purring. I don't know if that helps or makes things worse. Oh, maybe that's what the deal is. There. Maybe it'll get better now. No, we'll see. Yeah, we need to remember to, I think, honor and respect those that have passed, as I'm just kind of nattering on here. Because I guess death is the great leveler of mankind. It really is. We all pass on eventually, and not necessarily in the time frame that we would like to. And it's frustrating for me, I think, who see the posts on Facebook or other social media platforms that, they're trying to collect money to have the funeral for, or the burial services for, or whatever. And it's, I don't know, to me, it's kind of sad, because we shouldn't wait until we die to make sure that someone's wishes are being honored when it comes time for their services. And it's having a will and a living will, a death will, living will, both, I think are important. And then having a end of life plan, I think is hugely important and extraordinarily necessary, to make sure that transition is as smooth as possible. Because often when someone passes, it's highly traumatic and highly stressful for those that are still living, because there's things that we have to accomplish. It's not just the sudden absence of the person, but there's all the logistical things. And it's like the Neptune Society is a organization that's all across the world, I believe, and they're a very good service for collecting your body wherever you've passed. And then just it's a they'll get the ashes, and you can either have the service there or do somewhere else. And it's I think it's just something that we need to remember to do, not just because I say so, but because it's a good way to protect our loved ones from that added stress down the road. Because I think it's important. I think it is very, very, very important. Let's see here. I was going to give you a pagan death blessing, but my link is not working, of course, because, and often, remember, when we do prayers or rituals and such, they don't have to be really, really complicated. They can be pretty basic. I mean, this is one I just pulled up. It's a prayer for the departed. It goes, I release myself from those who have left this plane and let them walk the blessed gardens of the Summerland. Pretty straightforward. And it's, I don't know, I think often we get in our own way and we complicate things, and we shouldn't if we don't have to. Sorry guys, trying to fix the rain and it's not cooperating with me. I don't know why it's not. It's making me sad. Let's see if that helps or makes things worse. I don't know. I don't know. Technology. You know, it doesn't really matter where we are on our path. It seems like technology every so often just really kicks our butt. And so, yeah, if you're hearing the rain, I guess you are hearing the rain. Nope, that's not going to work. So, I guess I'm just checking the last of the chat here. And yeah, static. Wow, yeah. So I thank you guys for being so patient with me with my stuff and trying to get things going and just dealing with it. And yeah, because life. Just because life. Remember, I think, journal your thoughts. Because with death and the unexpected loss, shadow work is something I think we should probably do a little bit there. And if you do have really big fears or concerns regarding death and the passage of someone, you know, don't be afraid to see a therapist. Often the fear is what's causing us, you know, the stress and the anxiety, the fear of what's going on next, and the fear of the unknown. Because yeah, we're often very afraid of it. That's why we're afraid of the dark often. We don't know what's out there. And yes, Marie, it is rapidly approaching my bedtime, and my brain is starting to shut down as I just, long day today. Also, don't be afraid to write letters to those that have passed on. My daughter has written letters to my grandmother. It was really sweet in the way she did it. And she wanted to know how to get the letter to my grandmother. And so we had a little a ceremony and with a little bitty fire, and I told her to think of Grandma and to let the intention go that the message will go to Grandma in the smoke, in the ashes. And so that's been I know that's what we've done a couple times now when she's wanted to write a letter to Grandma. And you know, something like that I think is a really good way to keep our kids, you know, remembering those that have passed as well. So by the way, I have written a couple books for kids, and when I get the first one published, which should happen in the next month-ish, I have to finish illustrating it. I'll let you guys know when it's published and give me your 3 cents on it. So for the last minute of the show, we're just going to ding the bell, I think, or the bowl, you know, in the remembrance of those that we've lost in the last year, and to, you know, wish them peace and tranquility on their journey. And we, you know, we miss them, and we'd love to have them back. But it's okay to miss them and have that loss. So thank you all for joining tonight. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. And we'll see you tomorrow night where we talk about the sacral chakra. And for those of you on TFR, stay tuned for Duke.
I, O Lord, within the sun, as we will, so mote it be, the spell forever done.